As it turns out, Red Mirror wasn't a massive paradigm shift to the paranormal, and instead we are continuing in a world that's 5 minutes in the future, as per Charlie Brooker's original mission statement for the show. So this, once again, is Black Mirror, back with Season 7, Episode 1, Common People. And before I go into the episode in detail, I want to give a quick hat tip to Chris O'Dowd and Rashida Jones. I've always said, and I know other people have said it, but this reinforces it this episode, that if you ever want any role filled, don't disregard the funny person. Timing matters in more than comedy. And I think seeing a contrast between someone that you're used to making you laugh suddenly make you cry, it hits harder. I mean, there are great actors who can make you cry every single performance, and I'm not saying that's worse, but I just think the contrast really helps. And yeah, both of these knock it out of the park. I'll keep referencing them throughout, but absolutely brilliant performances. And because it's been the trend now, we do have a few Easter eggs and callbacks. We have an ADI from Hated in the Nation. The anniversary location is the Juniper Hotel, where the first time we see it, the Black Mirror song, because that's all it is to me now, is being performed. We have, of course, yes, the name of the place, the Juniper Hotel, and the fact that they said the Juniper Burger. And that sets us up for something, but I'll get to that in a moment. But the intro does set up quite nicely Amanda and Mike's relationship as well. We have, a couple who are working hard. Amanda herself is a great role model and teacher. They want to have a child, but Amanda keeps having these headaches. So what happens eventually is, of course, the brain just gives up. And this is where all the callbacks early on, I think, were, almost like a misdirect from Charlie Brooker. It's entirely within what I expect from him. Because when Mike is told, well, until recently this would have been the end, but there is a company out there doing stuff in this area, I was immediately going to Tucker, and many of you probably were too. So when she said Rivermind, I was like, who's Rivermind? That really threw me for a loop. And like I say, it's very Charlie Brooker to set us up expecting it and to pull the rug. But I do appreciate how they use Gainer, in a similar way to how companies like Weight Watchers will use people who've lost weight. Having someone who has benefited from your product or service sell it to other people, that's the best form of advocacy for whatever you're selling I think you could ever ask for. And it did remind me of illicit services, shall we say, because you'll often find the first hit's free, in this case the surgery's free, but then if you still want to get the benefits, you've got to pay, like the monthly subscription in this example. And, as we see later in the episode, you've got to pay more to get the same hit. There does feel a very chemical-leaning way of approaching things here. But on the way home I did notice something actually, which is weirdly foreshadowing rather than calling back. Because they pass a cinema that has, amongst films playing, Hotel Reverie. And that's 2 episodes in the future. So I love that. I love the fact that we've got foreshadowing. Again, before anything really gets heavy. But of course, to afford this service, Mike has to pick up extra shifts. We see this growing decrease of sleep. The earlier the alarm's being set, the calendar's filled with more and more overtime, just so basically he can keep his wife alive. And so they plan to go for the next anniversary, thinking everything will be fine. And again, great performances sell this. The panic as they cross into the next county, as she's not in coverage anymore, so therefore her brain goes back into shutdown mode. And Chris O'Dowd's panic is so believable. And wants to go back, he's like, yeah, we are rolling it out like we told you, but now it's on our Plus model. You've got to spend $500 a month, which I thought was going to be the end of the sentence. And I'm like, it is more, but that's not awful. And then she said, on top of what you're already paying, which was $300. Anything that's more than double what you're paying, especially within about a year, even with what's going on now in the real world, that is far over inflation or any reasonable, increase in price. And it makes me laugh because now that the common model, as it's being called, is ad-supported, but you're still paying every month. It made me laugh because this is on Netflix, who have an ad-supported model that you're paying for as the lowest tier. I do think if you are paying for a service, then you should have no ads. You should have a free ad-supported version if you want, but you shouldn't have a hybrid model. It's a very clear way of obviously upselling, because it's like, well, you can pay a bit more to get rid of those ads, like in this. I just find it weird that Netflix is the main host of this, that I'm assuming the bankrolling part of it. So they were okay with calling out their business model. I don't know how much creative control they have, let's be honest. But we have the moment where Mike realises that he might have to do something. And this is something I've held off from the intro, because I see this show, Dumb Dummies, which his co-worker tells him about, as almost like a precursor to what we see in 15 Million Marriage. People doing things on these various shows that were shown in that episode just to get credits to survive so they can hopefully get a better life. It feels very much like that's an extrapolation of what's happening here. Dumb Dummies might have been like I say, precursor or the initial version of something like that. So when Mike signs up, he goes under the name Happy Eater, which I had to double check, because I'm like, am I misremembering this? Is it a Mandela Effect thing, which is a future episode, but we'll get there. Happy Eater was a chain of restaurants here in the UK. I don't think it was international. And there is a t-shirt in the next episode that is Happy Eater. So this is almost like an extra foreshadowing moment. But I did like that little callback. And of course, on Dumb Dummies, some of the names are references, like I Am Waldo was a really obvious one that I spotted. But one of the other things that I didn't like about the model that they use, you've got the ad-supported, yes, but they're increasing the sleep time because it's not actual sleep, it's sleep mode. They're using her sleeping brain as basically distributed networking, which means it's not resting. When we sleep, our brain goes into a slow mode, like a processing mode of going like, this is what I've had to deal with today, let's make sure everything's fine, get the body repaired, all that stuff. But if your brain's being used for this distributed networking, you're not getting that benefit, which is why she never feels that sleep is restful. And I like how we see throughout the episode, more and more makeup is put on Rashida Jones to make her look worse, basically. Or that, they could have kept her up, I don't know. I'm assuming it's makeup. But of course, this is then used to try again another upsell, again, spend more to get the same level of hit that you had before, effectively. And I noticed something on the advert. Because again, this is the joy of rewatching it, and being able to pause and go back, not watching it with your partner and them telling you not to do that. But at the end of that episode, there's a thing at the bottom, and I'm just going to put it on screen now. I'm not going to read it out. It'll be over me while I'm talking about it. But I really hope that no actual AI models are scraping this episode, because I'm getting fearful. But, of course, through Mike doing this Dumb Dummies thing, to afford to give Amanda the best life he can, his partner being a massive fan of it makes it known. And Shane's accident absolutely terrified me, because this is how easy accidents are to happen. Neither of them were involved in the vehicle. It was literally an altercation and he fell in front of it. That could happen at any point. It's absolutely terrifying. But of course that means that now there's no job. And sadly, the concept of loyal customers doesn't seem to exist anymore in this world. I'm saying this world meaning Black Mirror, but you'll see a lot of introductory offers in the real world, won't you? But not very many, oh, you're a loyal customer, let's give you discounts. You really have to fight for them. And this, again, is where this future is probably likely to go. Doesn't matter. If you're not paying, you're not a loyal customer anymore because you're not paying. Not, oh, you've been a loyal customer, we'll give you some leeway. And I totally understand him being very upset by that. And the fact that she has a nonchalant slider. I think a lot of sales reps need that nonchalant slider. Absolutely. But one of the things that I didn't like is, and I get it, she probably sees a lot of customers, etc. They mentioned early on, I think even in like the first or second meeting with her, that they are kind of trying for a child, not necessarily, intensely. So either it's something that came in later and she forgot to mention because it had been time, or she sees that many people that she forgot. But I get it. I would feel so upset. But then we have a time jump of a year, and this whole last section is where the emotional gut punch comes in. There's been moments throughout, like I've said. There's been some hard moments to watch. But we see the crib being picked up, and it's like, oh, we're not using it for a baby, we're burning it in a music video. Symbolically, that is, their dreams of a baby have gone up in flames. It's heavy-handed. I'm not going to say, oh, it's amazing, look at what they've done. It's heavy-handed, but I think it works, even being heavy-handed. And so he gives a a little bit of time to have the Lux model for half an hour of peace and serenity. And she says, yeah, I'm ready. Just do it when basically the time's up, when I'm not here. And it's so hard to watch as, they share I love you, and then it's like...
Are you filled with dread? Racked with despair?
Babe, not yet.
Let the sunshine in with Endorphox antidepressant lozenges. Again,
Rashida Jones's performance here, where she just effortlessly slips from, hey, I'm chill and I'm here, but I'm actually Amanda, to I'm not here anymore, this is an ad running. And again, Chris O'Dowd selling the anguish of having to end the life of his wife. It really hits hard, and of course that last shot, box cutter, Dum-Dum is on, door close. We know what's happening there. And I'm left with a question as to whether Mike would have thrived if he'd have let her go. If he'd have said, I'm not going to artificially extend a life, like if it's untested, or not super known, and it's only in the early days, I don't want to run the risk. If he'd have just let her go then, would he have thrived? Would he still be living? Would he have found love somewhere else? As hard as it is to let go of loved ones, sometimes it might be the better of two evils. There's a lot in this episode. I have subtitled it because I've brought back that as well, the alternative titles. Feature creep, where they roll out more features, but it's going to cost you more. We have just the obvious parallel to greed versus healthcare, which is very much the American system. Americans, come at me in the comments all you want. That is how your system is run. It's all about profit for insurance companies. A lot of people are starting to get wise to that. It's almost like health is seen as a commodity, not a right. But yeah, you've got so much here. And again, what will people do to survive, or to help people they love survive? And again, the whole chemical link. So there's a lot here, and it's bleak because Black Mirror is often bleak. I know I normally end my videos on a high note, but I think to just turn into something very glib and positive after this would be giving it a disservice. I think this is one of those that the meaning needs to sit with you for a bit. So I apologise if that upsets some people. There's plenty of videos of puppies and things like that I'm sure you can find out there, and please do, if you are affected by this, or if reminded you of stuff, or the episode reminded you of stuff, do look after yourself. But I'll be back next week with Bête Noire, where we'll all get confused as to what's real and what isn't, and maybe be able to change our realities so we're a lot happier. But until then, as always, thank you for watching, and take care.